Hello everyone. We are going to start with another lecture of advanced performance management, and in this lecture we are going to deal with the concept of balanced scorecard in P5. This type of question, initially examiner used to ask the performance measurement or the application of a balanced scorecard in different contexts as we did in previous F5 paper. But I'm doing this just to have a quick recap of what you guys have already done in F5 and how this can be examined. This has been examined in P5 or APM. But to be very honest, this type of you will not see this type of question anymore in APM. I mean, it's a very there are very remote chances that examiner will ask this type of question, because this type of question has never been asked since 9 years or maybe 9.5 years. This is 2009 June paper. So examiner is more concerned with the issues regarding how to improve balance scorecard and what are the issues with balance scorecard and how benchmarking can be merged with balance scorecard. And examiner is more concerned with the strategic perspective rather than dealing with again asking a student to go for performance measurement. So that's basically a disclaimer kind of thing, because this we are going to do this question, but you please don't expect examiner to repeat this kind of question in APM paper. So this is just for a recap purpose, since obviously you guys have done F5 and you have a good knowledge, but still there is a need to do a quick recap, right? So I urge you, still, you can pause this video and try to read this question at your own in order to have a better understanding of how what things are given here, right? You may pause this video and try to read this question at your own, and then resume with me. All right. The Royal Laurel Hospital and the King Hardy Hospital are government funded institutions which are managed by the Glasberg Trust. The following information is available for the year ending 31st May 2009. Let me try to read the requirement first. Let's read the requirement first. It's a 35 marks requirement, and 35 marks requirement in the sense because initially there was 35 marks and 25 marks paper question in the first section, but now it's 50-mark question. Prepare a report to the management of the Glasberg Trust, which critically assess on the basis of the above information. Critically assess on the basis of above information the performance of both hospital for the year ended 31st May 2009. You should use 4 dimensions performed for your assessment as per note number 6 above. So what is note number 6? It's note number 6 here. The management of the trust uses a balanced scorecard approach in order to assess the performance of each hospital. Their balanced scorecard has 4 dimensions which are as follows: assess to services, clinical efficiency, and financial management. Right. So, what is our traditional balance scorecard? Our traditional balance scorecard includes financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and innovation. Right. So, financial perspective is here, right? Clinical is related to the quality of services, or you can say customer perspective kind of thing. So, that is here, customer perspective, or it's basically related with the quality issue, right? What now? Internal efficiency and in learning and innovation is not given here. Learning and innovation is not here at all, right? So that is something which is not here, and that makes sense because innovation is not a powerful tool to acquire customer in terms of hospital, right? So access to services, that is a new perspective here, because this shows that how quickly you can access the services. I mean, there is kind of emergency. There are patients which require some immediate response from the hospital. So that is something which has been given here, and that make again sense. There is no mission statement given in the question because initially examiner do not connect these things with mission statement, right? So it's a very typical F5 kind of question. And in efficiency is in this context, efficiency is not the efficiency of doctor. In this case, efficiency is related to the context, in the context of resource utilization. This is basically something which we have covered in the concept of value for money in 3 E's in F5: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So that is basically the efficiency in that context. So you have to analyze the performance of hospital by using these four perspectives. First one is access to the services, right? How quickly you can access the services. The second one is clinical, which is quality related thing. The third one is efficiency, which is resource utilization. And the fourth one is financial management, right? So let's see what is given in this question. Now, again, if you haven't read the question, then I urge you to please go through this question. Now, first thing which is given here is total number of inpatients, right? Total number of inpatients are 30. Let me try to mark this. Total number of inpatients are approximately 37,000, 36,500, and 40,000. And then there is number of inpatients waiting for greater than 5 weeks for admission, number of patients waiting for greater than 11 weeks for admission. So this data is actually related to the number of inpatients, right? I hope you know what is the difference between inpatients and outpatients. Inpatients are those who get admit, and outpatients are the typical OPD which comes for a visit, right? Total number of outpatient is given here. Total number of outpatients are on the quantity is given, and then there is a breakup number of outpatient waiting for greater than 5 weeks, greater than 11 weeks, and greater than 13 weeks, right? So there is another category given here. Then achievement of target maximum waiting time of 2 weeks for admissions to rapid access chest pain clinic, right? So this is maximum waiting time. I mean, if you have a chest issue, if you have a chest related issue, then obviously you need to consult it quickly. So that's something which they are saying, that maximum waiting time is 2 weeks. So that is achievement as a percentage of the target, that how many patients you actually waited for less than 2 weeks. So that percentage is given here. And then number of emergency admissions and number of 12 hours trolley wait for admissions, and achievement as a percentage of 4 hour or less time spent on accidents and emergency ward. So till now, the number of patients, number of inpatients waiting, this can be treated as access for the services, right? This can be treated as access for services. Achievement of targeted maximum waiting time for 2 weeks for admission to rapid access chest pain, where we can classify, there are four perspectives: access to services, quality of service, efficiency, which is resource utilization, and financial. So where can we classify this? Achievement percentage of target maximum waiting time for 2 weeks or admission to rapid access chest pain clinic. Yes, it can be classified at access to services, right? Now, number of emergency admissions. Number of emergency admission, yes, that can also be classified as access to service client, access to clinics. Number of 12 hours trolley waits for emergency admission, that can be treated as access to services. Sorry. Now, achievement, then what's next? So this, till now we are dealing with access to services. Then it says number of complaints received. Number of complaints received, this is related to quality, which is B part. Number of complaints responded to within 25 days. Yes, it's P. You may pause this video and try to think at your own. Number of deaths, quality. Infection control, number of instances of infection reported, quality related issue, right? Number of drug administration errors, quality related issue. Number of staff shortages. Shortage is what? That is a kind of resource utilization thing, right? So this can be treated as C. Number of staff productivity measures. If productivity improves, that means a good resource utilization, it's C. Number of times of government or agency staff usage, where we use someone else for our hospital patients, C. Bed occupancy, C. Theater utilization, C. Percentage of inpatient requiring a single operation. Revenue from clinical and non-clinical activities. This is financial option D. D. Medical staff cost, other staff cost. D. Income and expenditure, surplus or margin, profit in the normal case, number of cash in hand. That is option D. So it's a very simple question. I mean, it's really very simple question. Now what you have to do, you have to make an analysis, right? So our hospital is what? Our hospital is RHH, right? This is our hospital. So what the examiner gave you? Examiner gave you RHH budget, right? Budget of RHH. We have to analyze this part actually, and we have to compare it with RHH. We have to compare which KHH. Now what is KHH? King Hardy Hospital are the government funded institution which are managed by the Glasberg Trust, right? No, both are government institutions, so both are in the same category. Both are probably not for profit making organization, most probably. So let's go for the access to now. Try to identify how you will measure this part, this A part, how you will measure this one, just this initial one. See, there are numbers, right? Numbers are 37,000 overall inpatients, out of which 3,330 waited for greater than 5 weeks and 740 waited for greater than 11 weeks. So where are the remainder one? Remainder maybe don't they they got facilitated within 5 weeks probably. So that means what? That means we need to calculate few things, right? We need calculate few things. We need to calculate. I'm not calculating right now all figures. I'm just giving you a simple demo, and then I will give you and then I will stop this video and calculate all those answers, and then we will proceed, right? So what we have to do, we have to divide 3,330 with 37,000, and that's equals to 9%. 9% patient waited for more than 5 weeks, right? But not greater than 11 weeks. And 740 divided by 37,000, it's around 2%. 2% customers waited for more than 11%, right? Just a second. All right. So 9% and 2% is the average percentage of RLH actual. We have to compare that, but I will calculate this separately. Now, what about total outpatient? Total outpatient. Similarly, we will do the same calculation for outpatient. So 44,000 is the total outpatient, and 10% is for greater than 5 weeks, right? And then 1320 divided by 44,000, that makes around 3%, right? And then it's 220 divided by 44,000, that makes 0.5%, right? So this is basically what this RLH in terms of actual did, right? Now, then what next is achievement of targeted, that is already in terms of percentage. Number of emergency admission is 300, and number of 12-hour trolley waits for emergency admission. So 4 people waited for more than 12 hours out of 300 patients. But in budget May it was not there. In KHH it was not there, but it actually happened with RLH only, right? Achievement in terms of percentage of 4 hours or less time spent on accident of 96%. 96% patient got admitted within 4 hours or less time in case of accident. Then 98%, and then 100%, right? So again, you just need to compare these performances, right? So right now I'm pausing this video and I am trying to calculate the same percentage which we have calculated here for RLH budget and KHH actual, right? You may also calculate and then we can reconcile, right? All right. So basically this is the situation. Now the question is how we can analyze the situation. See, it's really very simple. I've tried to summarize till access for clinical, that how much time you are actually required to access the services. Inpatient has 9%. There is almost everywhere RLH actually couldn't perform well, because 9% patients or 9% inpatients are actually expected to take greater than 5 weeks waiting time, right? Inpatients are who are inpatients. Inpatients are those who are actually booking appointments, right? For their one visit, for their one time visit, right? So 9% patients, 9% is a huge amount. 9% patients will have to wait for more than 5 weeks. 5 weeks means more than a month, right? And for in case of RLH budget, it was budgeted to wait for just 1%. So your actual deviate by 8%. That is a huge change, right? You have to figure out why that change occur, right? I mean, this is only not the performance measurement. This is also the case that why this is happening, because this is a very critical thing. I mean, if I'm calling a hospital and no one, and the person from the other side is asking me to wait for 1 month and a week, then definitely maybe I can go to some other hospital, because the other hospital is also run by the government trust, right? That is also run by trustees. So probably their charges will be, I mean, we don't know the charges till now, but if charges are same, then definitely patient will go there. So, and there are just 0.8%. Although, I mean, apart from the fact that they have more patients, and still they are just 8%, 0.8% patients are waiting for more than 5 weeks. Patients waiting for more than 11 weeks. More than 11 weeks means approximately 3 months, right? So 2% patients have to wait for 2 months. That means what? That means you don't have enough resources, either don't have enough resources to carry out the excessive patients, to treat the excessive patients, or you don't have a good management system to carry out the patient I mean patient diagnosis. Because see, if a doctor is taking more than a normal time at one patient, then definitely it's his output will reduce, right? So 2% patients have to wait for more than 11 weeks, and that is not the case which company which this hospital was budgeting. This is not something which is actually happening with the other hospital, right? So again, access to patients seems to be weak in terms of inpatient, right? What about outpatient? Outpatients are those patients who get admitted in the hospital. So 10% patients have to wait for more than 5 weeks, right? And 3.8% 0.8% patient has to wait for more than greater than 5 weeks. So there is a huge difference between these two. There is a difference of around 9.2%, which is very high, and this was almost double as compared with what we were expecting, right? Greater than 11 weeks, the situation is miserable here as well. I mean, for more, I mean, 3 months wait is there for 3% patient, and then 1% patient, and then 0.5% patient in KHH. And then greater than 13-week wait time is also there. I mean, there are 0.5% patients who have to wait for more than 3 months and a week, right? So that is huge. So that means what? That means your access to services is doesn't seems to be well here as compared with the other businesses, right? Then targeted maximum 2 weeks waited time, we in case of achievement, right? So this is basically this part, achievement of this point. Achievement of targeted maximum waiting time for 2 weeks for admission to rapid access chest pain clinic. Rapid access chest pain clinic, we were expecting 98% patients will get admissions within 2 weeks, but only 70% patients are getting admission within 2 weeks. And this is an area which need to be improved, because this is quite critical situation. Whenever you deal with the hospital, this is a critical situation, right? Patient may die in case you delay this process. So 70% is very low, right, as compared with KHH. KHH usually 100% patients got admission within 2 weeks, right? So again, miserable performance by this division. Emergency admissions are 300. Operations are as per the other hospital. That is same less than the budget, but still same as what our competitor was competitor did, but 1.3%. 1.3 is basically 4 out of 300. 4 out of 300 customers, 4 out of 3 patients have to wait for 12 hours in order to get admission. Now imagine there is an emergency case, right? In emergency case, you actually let patient wait for more than 12 hours, right? It's worst case, right? So if you analyze, if someone asks you to critically assess the performance of the hospital for the year ended 31st May 2008, then access to services seems to be compromised a lot, because not a single indicator is as good as we have budgeted, or not a single indicator is better than the other hospital, right? So we really need to work here, and we really need to we really need to hire some more staff, or hire some new resources, if we really if we want to improve this. Because in if patients is are not getting admitted on time, then I mean the facilities and the cure and treatment is a secondary process, is a second step. First step is to let them get admission, right? And that process is very difficult in this case. So it's something which we really need to look for, improve actually, right? Now what is the second part? Let's move to the second part. Second part is this area: number of complaints received 1620. I mean, you have to write this, you have to write it in your own wordings. You have to consider, for example, this part first, and write 3 or 4 lines. How much marks? It's for 20 marks. 20 marks mean 5 marks for each part, right? So you need to write for this. You need to write for the outpatients in a separate paragraph. Then you have to write for this part, because and you have to make an emphasis that, look, this is really very important case, which is far more than what it should be. And then emergency, again, this is a very important factor. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 areas where you have to work for 5 marks. So I think it's reasonable. And then number of complaints received. Let's move towards the second part. Second part was clinical, right? The second part was clinical. Let's see what we can do here. Number of complaints received is given here, right? And number of complaints responded within 25 days. So 1539, oops, sorry, 1539 divided by 1620, that makes 95% complaints have been responded within 25 days, right? 25 days is still very high time, but still we 95% complaint has been resolved, and 5% complaints couldn't resolve. I mean, that took more than 25 days. Number of deaths, all inpatient, that is for 600 people died. And we need to really figure out what was the reason behind the 600, because when we were doing this question in class, there were few students who said, ma'am, if you are considering death, so we cannot control death. So yes, we cannot control death, right? But the point is, was it normal? Was it because of lack of I mean, was that because of carelessness? I mean, is that death because of 12 hours trolley waiting time? Was it because people were we admitted those chest patient so late that they got expired? So what is the reason behind those 600 death? That need to be understood, that need to be figured out. If that is a hospital negligence, that we really need to control that part in future. We really need to do something for that. But else, uh, if it's natural, you may ignore that. All right. Then it says infection control, number of instances in infection reported. 6 infections reported as compared with 2 is reported as compared with 6, which we are expecting. Number of drug admissions error, 80%. 80%. Number of drug administration errors, not percent, 80 drugs administration errors compared with 20 for the industry average, and 100 we were expecting, right? So if you see this, so complaints received, first let's talk about complaints, right? complaints for RLH actual, for RLH budgeted, and for KHH actual, right? We received 1620 complaints. We received 1620 complaints, and 10620 complaints has been received. It's not mentioned whether this complaints actually related to inpatient or outpatient, but let's assume that this complaints is related to inpatients, right? I mean, you have to write it, like for example, since nothing about complaints is given, that which patient actually complained, so we are assuming that complaints has been done by the inpatients, or we assume that complaints are related to the total number of patients, inpatient or outpatients, right? Whatever you want to do. Okay, fine. Let's make it with respect to total, right? So 1620 divided by the sum of inpatients 37,000 and sum of outpatients, which is 44,000. And this is 0.02 multiplied by 100. That makes 2% complaints. 2% complaint with respect to overall, compared with the total patients, right? We will do the same case for the remaining one, right? And number of complaints responded within 20 years, 25 days. That we have calculated 95%, right? We will calculate for the remaining one as well. And number of instances inspection reported, that is simple, 2, right? And drug administration error, this is 80, and that's it. Yes, complaints 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number of deaths, we forgot deaths. 600 people died and all are inpatients, so 600 divided by 44,000. Inpatients, outpatients? Inpatients. Oops, sorry. So 600 divided by inpatients are 37,000. That makes 1.6% death. 1.6 people, 1.6% people died in the organization, right? I'm pausing this video and I'm calculating for the remaining one. You may also calculate that and we will resume then. All right. So this is basically the situation for clinical. It says I've calculated complaints in terms of total. So again, performance seems unsatisfactory, as we can see that we were expecting 1.69% patients to complain, but actually there were complaints raised were around 2%. 0.5% complaints we were actually happened with the competitor compared with 2%. So complaint ratio is again high, right? And the complaints which are resolved for within 25 days are 95%. That means 5% complaints we were unable to resolve within 25 days. That took more than 25 days. This was not something which we were budgeted. We were expecting that we will solve 100% complaints within 25 days, but we actually resolved just 95% complaints. And the competitor has just 1% complaints out of for more than 25 days. So again, this perspective seems to be compromised as well. The performance part is also not good. Infection reported instances are less than the budget. That shows a good thing, but again, it's more than the industry average. What actually happened with the competitor, right? And then drug administration error, 80 times that drugs which the patient actually received was not the one which they ordered or which they were required to do so, compared with just 20 administration error. So that is also very high, 4 times as compared with the expectations, or sorry, not expectations, with the industry. And that I mean, this has been good as compared with the budget, but not with the industry average. Um, Death rate is around 1.6%. That is a good thing which this division has. I mean, number death ratio is comparatively low, but again we need to identify that 1.6%, why that actually happened, what is the reason behind that. And also we need to identify, because see, the patients which you are taking as an administration, that is very important, because if you are not admitting critical patients, then definitely your death ratio can be lower. This is a way to, improve your death ratio, usually may occur. So again, it's the only thing which is good in this situation, right? Now let's proceed to point number 7. Let's see what we have there, right? Point number C. What we have here: number of staff shortages, right? Staff shortages is number of staff shortages is 80. It's not in percentage. 80 staff was short in actual, compared with 60 that was expected, and the 20 staff which we were expecting to in the industry average. And that is the reason why we were unable to admit patient quickly, because there is a huge staff shortage. You have to hire more staff in this particular case. Staff productivity measure, that is another thing. Number of times government agency staff used, that is, number of staff shortages are get 80 times, and we use someone else 80 times. So that means what this data is showing, that whenever there is a staff shortage, we hire government or agency staff to fill that gap. So that happened 80 times. But again, that requires some time to get into the work. Bed occupancy ratio, bed occupancy in number of inpatient days, 138,750. So this is not percentages, this is bed occupancy, right? How many beds occupied. Theater utilization is there. There is a question mark, so we have to calculate this question mark, right? So I will try to calculate this. We will do it here. Percentage of inpatient requiring single operation, that is 80%, and number of operations performed 29,800, right? So till here, this is something which is actually related to the efficiency part. Now let's read the additional requirement also, because this is something which has a connection here. Both hospitals were in operation for 365 days during the year. Each hospital has 42 wards, each of which accommodates 10 beds, right? 42 wards and each accommodate 10 beds. RLH budget that each inpatient would require a stay of 4 days and night in hospital, right? So that means 4 days is the average, what you will say, average stay in the organization. Each hospital has 10 operating theaters, in which and on average 9 operations per day were undertaken, right? And no outpatient required an operation during the year. Outpatient OPD is not for the operation. All operations have been done for the inpatients only, right? So I'm just trying to calculate two things here first, and then I will write all those things, and then we'll come back. So first of all, let's try to calculate bed occupancy, right? Bed occupancy that happened is 138,750, right? And let's try to calculate how many beds were available. There were 10 beds and 42 wards and 365 days. That makes 153,300. This is the total occupancy, right? So 153,300. 153,300, right? So what will be the bed occupancy ratio? Bed occupancy ratio will be 138,750 divided by 153,300. So that is 90.5% in this case, right? And then same we will calculate for the rest of the division. Then theater utilization is again a question mark. Theater utilization is basically connected with the operation theater utilization. Now what is operation theater utilization? See, number of operations performed is given here, right? And the percentage of inpatient requiring a single operation. 80% patients require a single operation, and 29,008 operations were actually performed. How many operations can we do? It's given in point number 4, right? You may pause this video and try to calculate this theta utilization at your own and then reconcile. All right. Theta utilization is okay. How many operations performed? 29,008, right? 29,008 operations were actually performed, right? And how many operations could have been performed? 10 operation theaters. 10 operation theaters in which 9 operations per day can occur. So we can perform 90 operations in a day. Multiply by 365, it's 32,850. Right? So divided by 32,850. 29,008 divided by 32,850. 88.3%. Right? Acha, what's next? The next part is acha, yeah, in this part ratio number of operations performed is not given, but since it is budget, so we can assume that whatever we were expecting, we actually did that. I mean, in the budget we don't consider this partner, that we actually identify that 80% of inpatients will require operations, and we didn't do that. We will not do that. So for 80% of what? 80% of inpatients, 36,500 times 80%, 29,200. So 29,200 divided by 32,850. %, right? And what is the last one? Last one is 31,840 divided by 32,850. 96.9, right? So this is for our H actual, this is budget, and this is KHH, right? So that means what? That means theta utilization was not up to the mark. Less operations have been performed. And one more thing here. See, all hospitals were expecting that 80% operations they will perform, right? But how many operations they actually performed is different. Let's take the difference. Let's see what is the difference. 80% of inpatient is 37,000. 29,600. So we were expecting 29,600 operations, right? This was the expectations. I mean, this was something which we were requiring a single operation that is required by the inpatient. But actually, what happened? 29,008 operations carried out, right? Try to figure out. Try to pause this video and think what can be the reason behind this. See, these are the operations which either had been called off. I mean, after seeing all those facilities by the hospital, maybe that after initial inspection, a patient has been shifted to some other hospital and they carried out operation somewhere else, or there can be some cancellation that patient no more require that operation. So that can be the situation, but it's a strange that how much minus 29008 is 592 patient operations have been called off, right? Out of 29,600, that makes 2%. 2% operations have been called off. We don't know exactly the reason why that called off, but this is something which actually happened, right? In budget, so we don't have any discrepancy. In actual, 80% of inpatients are what? Inpatients are 40,000, no? 32,000. 32,000 were expected, and the actual is 31,840. 160. So 160 divided by 32,000 is 0.005%. So only 0.5% operations called off in the other department and the other hospital. So that means this is something which is usual. I mean, people don't perform the operation after doing that, but still, that is something. So theater utilization was 88.8% in the second case and 96.9% in the third case. Let's calculate the bed occupancy now. 146 divided by 153.3, 95.2%. And then 134,320 divided by 153,300, that makes around 87%. Right. So bed occupancy was low in KHS as compared with this one. That means what? That means number of patients are high and days are low. That means the average of this hospital average stay, length of stay is low as compared with the first one. This shows us. Now, what else? We don't have any other thing. Do we have? Yeah, staff shortages, we did that, and number of operations performed, we did that. Theater utilization is there. Yeah. So this shows what? This shows again staff shortages was there, but it's good that industry from somewhere else we recruited the staff for on a very on a short notice, but still that need time to be managed, right? So 80 staff was short in our hospital compared with 20. That shows I mean, this is, I mean, if you are getting out of a staff, that is going to hurt the quality of the services which you are actually performing. So I'm not saying that this is a good ratio still, but instead I will criticize this, that 80% is very high as compared with the industry. Bed occupancy is lower as compared with the expectations, but higher as compared with the industry average, right? So that this is a good part here. And theater utilization, less operations have been carried out, so that shows that shows that loss of revenue probably. But again, people are probably not sure with this hospital, that's why less operations have been performed as compared with what the industry average is. Then revenue from clinical and non-clinical activities, we are going to perform part D, right? Let's perform part D now. Part D, revenue from non-clinical activities is given: medical staff cost, other staff cost, income and operation. So you can calculate its percentage, right? Percentage with respect to other cost divide medical staff cost divided by the revenue, then other cost divided by revenue, then profit to sales ratio you can calculate it, and then you can compare. This is something which usually students can easily do, right? So I'm not commenting on this part. So that's the end of part A. What is in part B? It says evaluate the balance scorecard by using by the trust and provides recommendation which would improve its usefulness as a performance measurement tool, right? And that is for 11 marks, right? So what you have to do, you have to analyze what the balance scorecard is, right now, and what they are doing, what is good, what is bad. That is something which we usually call the part evaluation. Evaluation always means that you have to evaluate the scenario, evaluate scenario in the sense that if something is good there, you need to appreciate that, you need to highlight that, and you have to justify why you think that that is fine. And if there is something wrong with that part, then you have to identify that, and you have to justify that, you have to tell that, look, this is the reason why we think that this should not be there, right? So that is something which we term evaluate. So you have to evaluate the balance scorecard. See, as we have identified previously, that balance, what does balance scorecard mean? Balance scorecard is actually a measure, a tool in which we analyze the performance of any company in terms of financial performance as well as non-financial performance. And why we think so? Because non-financial performance give us a better indication of the actual performance of the company. If non-financial, if we are performing non-financially good, then that means financial ratios can be improved in future. But if we are unable to improve non-financial ratios, then despite of the fact that financial ratios are good, we can have some problems in future. So that is basically what we have already concluded in the balance scorecard theory, which we have studied, right? Now, uh, now we have to compare what our perspectives were, what were the original perspective, and what has been considered here. See, financial perspective is same. Financial perspective has been included. The examiner is and provide recommendation which would improve the usefulness of its performance measurement tool. Financial perspective has been given, that has been included, and that shows how financially how company performed. And uh, and in financial ratios we have included two things. We have included profitability part in the sense that will show that how actually company performed in terms of the performance, right? Then we have included number of days cash in hand, right? That shows the liquidity part, short term cash flow, short term cash performance, you can say, right? But other few measures are not here. Um, for example, there is nothing about uh, so shortage of cash has been included here. um, but again, it's really if you really want to comment on any other perspective, then it's really very important to understand that which in I mean whether the hospital is a profit making organization or not. It seems that it's a not for profit making organization because both are managed by our government funded institutions, so both are supposed to be not for profit making organization. So profitability in that case will be a weak indicator because increase in profit is not going to will not will not make management more happy as compared. I mean, that is not a good indicator in this situation. I mean, your objective is not profit generation, right? But still you have to perform well because if both the hospitals are government funded, then it's really very then to whom government will fund. Government will fund to that hospital who is actually performing well. Some people may argue that if we are not performing well, we can have more funds because we ask for funds that look these departments are not working well, so we need to invest more money there. So that is a separate debate, but still we have to perform well. So financially whatever is given here, it's that makes sense. And apart from that, effectiveness is cannot be included here. So again whatever. All right, so let's start with the part B, with part D now. Okay, let's start with part B. What is given in part B, right? You have to evaluate the balance scorecard, right? So you have to compare that what balance scorecard has been prepared by the hospital and what it should have been prepared. So they have prepared a balanced scorecard, and we usually start with financial perspective, because whenever we talk about a profit making company, then we always start with the profit, because profit is something which is the most important objective of any company. But this division, these two hospitals are government funded hospitals, so definitely that means what that means these two hospitals, our main focus of these hospitals will not be to earn profit. And in fact we can see that that only 1 million loss, I think it's million, it's not given whether it's million, yeah, it's in million probably. So 1 million loss has been generated by this division, and 4 million profit has been generated by the other division. That means what? That means resource financial perspective seems to be better of this of KHH. And why that is important? That is important because, see, if you are generating more profits, if you are performing really well, then government will fund you more, government will try to facilitate you more, right? There can be one other side of this story as well. I mean, people may argue that since one hospital is not performing well, so they ask for more funds in order to improve the performance of the hospital. So fund is again an issue, but still what we have included in financial perspective is and that is included on on the last part. That means that shows the level of importance that financial performance is not so important in government, in not for profit making institution, but still cost efficiency is, you have to be cost efficient in that case. There is something which we have already discussed: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in case of non-for-profit making organization in past paper in F5. So efficiency part is really very important. I mean, you are not required to earn profit, but you are required to spend sensibly, right? So financial perspective is there, that makes sense. And in financial perspective, we have included medical staff cost. We need to compare in medical staff cost, that makes sense, right? We have included other staff costs, that makes sense, right? And that also have included profitability ratio. Profit is not a major area of concern, but still we have included that. So it's perfectly fine. It's a good idea to include financial performance, but because again, if no, I mean, no matter what business you are operating, you have to be financially efficient, right? Then what's next? Then they have used customer perspective, right? Customer perspective in terms of clinical, right? Customer's perspective in terms of clinical, because we have considered all complaints and drug inspections reported, everything. So customer perspective is really very important. If customers are not satisfied, if your patients are not satisfied, then definitely company will not be in a position to retain the patients. I mean, for example, if there are two hospitals operated by the government and same fees are charged in both government, then definitely you will not patients will not come to your hospital because they think that the other hospital has a better option, they can have more facilities there. So customer perspective is really very important in case of a non-financial perspective as well. And customer perspective will lead to the concept of effectiveness, which is again an important factor in a profit making organization. So that makes sense here. So customer perspective has been included, that makes sense, that is important for non-financial perspective, right? What else do we have? We have then access to services, right? Access to services is something, access to services is something which we have not seen in our traditional balance scorecard, and company has replaced access to services with I mean, this is something new here. I'm not saying that which perspective they have replaced, but access to services is important. Why? Because that is kind of the first step in the admission, right? And if patients are feeling difficult for in the access to the hospital, then definitely you will not be able to admit them. You will not be able to generate revenues from them. You will not be able to provide services to them. So access to services is an important feature here as well, right? So obviously what we have studied is for the manufacturing business, or is that is for that has its own dimensions, but the companies, institutions can develop their own balance scorecard, right? So that makes sense. Now the last part is efficiency. Efficiency is actually related to the resource utilization, right? Efficiency is somehow it's connected with the internal business perspective, because resource utilization is a part of internal business perspective. So we can say that access to services has been replaced, is replaced learning and innovation, right? Access to services has actually replaced learning and innovation, right? Efficiency is what? Efficiency here is important. Why? Because if you are efficient, if resource utilization is good, then definitely you can utilize your money, you can utilize your funds in a better position, in a better way, right? That is the third thing, which that is the second thing which we considered in economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So that makes sense because this is a not-for-profit making organization, right? Is there any other thing which we should include here? We can include that the number of new services which we have introduced, because if you are introducing new services or new ways of doing things, I mean, for example, patients are initially, I mean, how IT can help you. See, if you can analyze, I mean, if I made a blood test, right, and in a hospital, and then someone asked me that, okay, fine, you can have a blood test report after 2 days. You have to come and pick that report, right? And there is another hospital who is doing this. Like for example, you go there, you have a blood test, and then they, instead of asking you to go there again, to come there again, they are sending you the report via an email, and that is downloadable. You can print it at your home. So that is more important, right? That is to facilitate your customer, your patients, right? Or if there is other facilities, their online payment system is there, you can book appointments via system, then definitely it will help people uh, I mean, that will help the company to improve the performance. So we can include some IT related part here, but again, IT is not going to give you a major advantage, but still you can, that can improve the efficiency, that can improve the utilization part, right? So we can include IT here. What else can we do? There is one suggestion is to include IT in operations, right? In operational activities, right? What other thing which we can do? See, we have considered customers' perspective, but we haven't considered the doctor's perspective or the staff perspective, because in a service institution, staff is really very important. Those people who are working there are very important. So we can include some satisfaction of employee satisfaction here. Employee satisfaction is very important, because employees are not, if employees are not satisfied, they are not going to perform well, right? So these two measures companies should include in their balance scorecard. But apart from that, that the things which have been included in the balance scorecard are perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with these things, right? One thing which is missing here is that mission statement of both hospitals are not given here, so we are unable to connect balance scorecard with the hospital. This thing we will do in the next few classes, next few lecture, in which I mean, now APM examiner always give you a mission statement, and you have to connect balance scorecard with the mission statement, right? So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching this. Have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.